salute, invocation, and Jenny has something for me. Okay. And then we'll get to the ice cream. Since we kind of get some of the ice cream going, we're going to work on getting the Senate candidates up here, have a little forum with them. Then we have county commission candidates for the 2nd District we're going to have a forum with. Then 72nd House candidates we'll have a little forum with. And then all our local offices that are running, we're going to get them up here as well. So we got lots of people to hear from tonight. Luckily, everybody that's in charge ordered us some nice, cooler weather. Not as humid, little breeze, so it's very, very nice. We'll start with the flag salute. Macy's going to hold the flag up high. If everybody stand if you're able. All right. Thank you. And I'm going to have Stephen Owens, our 74th District Representative, do the invocation.
Thank you. Our most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, how truly blessed we are to be gathered here this day, to be a free people standing here in this wonderful country. God, as we come unto Thee in prayer, we ask that Thou would bless the leaders of our country, bless the leaders of our state, and bless each of those that will be speaking here this evening. Bless them with mental clarity, and bless them with peace. Help them to be able to get their individual messages across. Heavenly Father, we know that it is only through You that all things are possible, and that we serve at Your pleasure. Allow each one of us to be an instrument in Thy hand, to stand for good, to stand for Thy good, and to be witnesses unto Thee. We love Thee, and we thank Thee for all that we have and all that we are, and we thank Thee so very much for our great country. And do so in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, sir. Okay, line up. Let's get some ice cream going. And if you're thirsty, we have plenty of ice water. We got extra water, so please stay hydrated. Nobody get too wore out this evening. But so a couple of housekeeping things, and we're going to get the Senate candidates up here for a little mini forum. Jenny, did you set up the straw poll? Okay, here at the end of the ice cream table, we have a straw poll set up. You might wait till everybody gets their ice cream before you come back to vote. But the Senate candidates, we want to see who around here thinks that who you want to be the Senate candidate. And I did get all 3 candidates that are here tonight to promise to give us money to get a bridge over the train tracks so we don't have to listen to the whistles anymore. I hope they heard that. Let's see. Do want to mention that Steve Kelly, I don't know if he's here tonight, but he had some money left over in his campaign when he ran 2 years ago for the 72nd District, and he donated that to the party. So we're going to be putting that to local candidates and for the ice cream social and whatnot going forward. So that was really generous of Steve. And again, don't forget to donate. There is a donation box over there. And we do everything for local candidates. We don't do anything nationally or anything big. It always stays local. Anything that you donate, we help out. It is warm out, not as warm as it was going to be, so we were very thankful for that. But so definitely stay hydrated, stay cool. And the other thing is when the speakers are up here, if you do want to talk to somebody, talk to candidates or whatever, please kind of step toward the back and try to be a little bit quieter, because a lot of the people here in the center want to listen to who's talking and what they have to say so they can make an informed decision on voting day. And when lots of people stay close and talk, it gets really hard to hear them. It's about like a train going in the background. Sometimes it's hard to pay attention. And then, so we will, again, help yourself to ice cream. Lots of water. We bought 10 gallons of ice cream, so we want it gone. Everybody take 2-3 trips. And then if we can have the Senate candidates come up, we'll get started. And the format's going to be, we'll have a 2-minute intro, and then we'll give the same question for all 3 candidates that are here, and they'll get 1 minute to answer the question. And if it gets out of hand, we do have boxing gloves, so I think Lindstrom's got them on reach, but Bob looks pretty wily, so we'll want to watch out. Has Chris made it here yet? Oh, about 10 minutes on Chris? Okay, yeah, so we'll do the county commissioners first. And again, lots of opportunities to listen to these guys and to meet everybody. And we'll have lots of local candidates going afterwards, so there'll be plenty of time to meet everybody. And we have two candidates, Mike and Mr. Lowry. Okay, well, man, batting 1,000. I do know all the county, the 72nd district candidates are here. Actually, you can just take this one. So I guess we'll change the format. Instead of asking questions, you'll have about 5 minutes to talk about yourself and anything you want to for the county. Yeah, it'll keep an eye on you for 5 minutes. All right, thanks, Mike.
All right, thanks everybody for coming out tonight. I am Mike Weber. I live south of Heston on Ridge Road, but I've got a Newton address. I've lived in Harvey County since I was about 5 years old. My dad, John Weber, we farm over by Halstead. My brothers and I, we have a farming operation over there. If you travel south of Halstead, you'll see some big steel bins. That's some project we've been working on for a while and finally kind of got them started. My roots run deep here in Harvey County. My wife and I actually this year will be married 30 years. We've got 6 kids, 4 girls and 2 boys. I am also on the school board up in Heston. It's one of those deals where I've told my kids over the years, if you want to be involved or if you don't like how things are going, get involved. Don't sit around the edges making excuses, trying to figure out what things are going to happen. Make them happen. So that's one of the reasons why I got on the school board. And there's quite a learning curve, believe it or not. Learning everything that goes on with the school, the ins and the outs, and the things you have to deal with students and keeping the teachers happy and all that. So it's one of those deals where running a business, my wife and I have got D'Angelo's Pizzeria up in Heston. We celebrated 27 years there this year. I have, in the past, recently here, I've started working for J.P. Wygant in Wichita as a real estate agent. I am with the commercial and ag division. I kind of like the commercial buildings and the ag land. I know that's my wheelhouse. That's where I know where to be. We had, for years, my family had a business on the south end of town, Chisholm Trail, True Value. We closed that in June a year ago. I know what it's like to fail. I know what it takes to build. I know how hard it is to rebuild. So it's one of those deals where I like to think as a county commissioner that I've experienced a lot of things in my life. And I can bring a lot of experience to the table, even though I'm not really that old. But just ask my kids; they'll tell you I'm old. But how much more time do I have, Ed? 2 minutes? Sure, let's go.
Okay, first question I had for the candidate is what is your stance on the governor mandates that she's been pushing out without the House and the Senate? Yeah.
Well, I think executive orders have their place. I really like the fact that it's come back to the county commissioners in dictating that. It's one of those things where there's places out in western Kansas that still don't have a case. You know, that's to put that on the whole state, I think is hard. Having our own business up in Heston as a restaurant, and we lost, we probably knocked down 70% of our business, got back up to about 95%, and then we had another round, and it was overnight. It was last time it took about 2 or 3 weeks for it to kind of stair step down. This time it was boom, it was down. So that scares me as a business owner. We've got to make sure we can keep it open for people to do it. If a business, I guess I'm of the belief that If a private business asks you to wear a mask when you come in, it's no different than wearing a shirt. They ask you to wear a mask, then do it. But if you're out in public, it's your risk you're taking on, and it's your right.
Thank you, Mike. And then another question is, what is your opinion on the purchase of and the plan for the 80 acres of fairgrounds just on the south end of town?
Ouch. Well, that was across the street from me down there. I anticipated that being open 8 or 9 years ago. I think we were ready to go to bid. It's a sad deal that we haven't done it. It's one of those things, we've got the money in it, in the land. The true key to that deal is there's about 12 and a half acres on the frontage part of that. If we can get the county to grow and give a reason for people to be down there at, I believe I figured at $2.75 a square foot, I can pay for the 80. So it's one of those deals where if we can get things put together and grow, we've got an opportunity, but we've got to be willing to do it. It's just got to be able to put the pieces of the puzzle together.
And last question is, what committees do you think you'll be a part of when you're on the commission?
Well, I'll be right honest with you and tell you I haven't studied a whole lot of that. I would like to be on that fair committee, though. I know Chip is right now. To be right honest with you, if it's in my strengths, that's where I think I would like to be. I'll be right honest with you, with Chip being a retired trooper, the jail and that kind of thing, that's going to be in his wheelhouse. I'd rather let him take care of that. I know there's people I can talk to about things that I don't know, and that's the best part about being in the county this long. I can go find those people, and I know who to talk to. So, and it's one of those deals too, as a county commissioner and as a board member and as a business owner, I'm used to people coming up and giving me this is what's going on, this is how we need to do this, and I can blend those things and put them into a good thought process.
All right, thank you, sir. Do you have anything you want to finish up with, or?
Thanks everybody for coming tonight. Enjoy some ice cream. I think more than enough, so belly up to the coolers on that deal. And vote for me in the primary, Mike Weber. And then we won't have to worry about the general that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And Don Schrader reached out. He had another commitment come up this evening. He wasn't able to make it, and I haven't heard anything from Mr. Lowry. Ron, would you want to come up and fill a little time for us? We got just under half an hour, so if you can squeeze that in, that would be great. Ron Estes, our congressman, everybody.
Well, thank you. I got to figure out how to cut my speech down to half an hour now. So, no, this is great seeing everybody out here. This is a great turnout. You know, looking at the number of people that are out here, it's a great year to be a Republican. And talking about things that are important for our country, talking about things of where we want to go. We've got so many good races this year going through the process, and I'm going to come back to that from the political side in my half hour. But I want to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that's going on in D.C. So we're back in the district this week, and then I'll be back in D.C. for the next 2 weeks and maybe the next 3 weeks, and then we'll have the August. Typically, we don't schedule time in August. One, because the swamp gets too hot up there, and two, it does allow parents to schedule a vacation before their kids go back to school in a normal year. So that's our traditional time that we're not in D.C. This week, the reason we're not there is because originally the Democrat National Convention was supposed to be going on this week, and so the schedule was built around not being in Washington for schedule. So when we go back, the things we've got to focus on are National Defense Authorization, which is something we do every year. And up until last year, we spent 58 years of building a bipartisan bill that supported the defense of our country. Last year, there were a lot of political games in the House of Representatives because the Democrats are the majority and they control what goes on. Fortunately enough, we were able to work with the senators and come back with an NDAA that worked well and that was a good bipartisan support for the country. Now we're in the mix of that right now as well, and it looks like at least what's being worked on through the Armed Services Committee in the House is being developed as a good bill. So hopefully Speaker Pelosi doesn't yank the rug out from under it like she has with other bills and change it from the time it leaves the committee before it hits the floor. And so we'll be able to address some of those issues, particularly China. I mean, that's, from my standpoint, the number one issue we've got going forward is what China's trying to do economically and militarily, and we're seeing them. They've been subtle up until the last couple of years, and during the Obama administration, they actually started being more blatant about what they were trying to do and approach that. And obviously, they're moving forward now with building bases in Africa, building bases in other countries throughout Asia, and the whole economic disruption out of the coronavirus and what information they did not share with the World Health Organization and the rest of the world, and resulted in this chaos now that we're seeing, and the economic impact it's had on us, economic impact it's had on Europe as well. So we've got to make sure that we stand up for good, strong defense for our country. The other thing we have to do when we're back, and the Speaker set July as the time frame to do it, we technically have till September, is to develop our appropriations process for next fiscal year. So fiscal year starts October 1, and so we got to come up with a new appropriation process. As you know, it's too easy to spend money, and that's, we had almost $1 trillion deficit that was baked in to our appropriations for this year before all the stimulus money that's being spent, the $3 trillion plus that's been spent through that dynamic, plus all of the impact of businesses that have been shut down, tax revenue that's been impacted, and all the damage from that. So the Appropriations Committee is working now, even when the whole House isn't in session, last week and this week, and so we'll have those bills brought forth before us. The other thing that we'll talk about, and I don't know, and I can't give a projection on exactly how it's going to come up, is there's an effort underway for a final stimulus bill to be brought forth. We had some good things in what was done earlier in terms of talking about helping develop vaccines, funding to help develop some treatments, some programs like the Paycheck Protection Program and economic impact payments, the stimulus payments. Unfortunately, there was a lot of fat built into those bills too. I mean, there was $600 a week extra unemployment for folks that weren't working. So basically what that meant, and depends on which study you look at, 60 or 70% of the people that were unemployed made more money on unemployment than they made from their paycheck in their job. So there was no incentive to go back to work. And we're already seeing trouble. Business after business is saying that they can't get workers to come back to work because of they'll have to take the pay cut. And actually, I've talked to businesses as well that their employees have asked to be laid off over the last couple of months so that they could get that extra money. And so the Democrats want to continue that. They passed a bill out of the House with the so-called HEROES Act 3 weeks ago that would have extended that to January, full $600, and then start tapering it down next spring. And so that's going to be the big battle as we talk about stimulus. And from a Republican position, that we're not going to do it, even if it means nothing happens. And there are some valid things we need to do, and I'll talk about two of them. One, liability reform. I mean, we're out there now, all these trial lawyers are out there saying that if an employee doesn't want to come to work, and if an employee gets coronavirus, even if they can't prove they got it at work, but they were at work and then got sick, or a customer comes in and a few days later is sick, that's just an open dream for the trial lawyers to go out and sue. And so we're looking to push for some liability reform through that process. The other thing we're pushing through is how do we get economic development, good ideas. So how do we immediately allow businesses to immediately expense their extra costs? I mean, instead of all the plexiguards that they put up, and the typical, if a new company wants to bring manufacturing back from China and make medical products here, how can we help them do that? How can we help them on the research and development, which is a bill I'm promoting? How can we help them on the cost of developing that new plant, buying that new equipment, and making sure things move forward there? And so that's the push that we're going to put through. At the end of the day, the tendency in Washington is to spend more money because they don't see the initial impact. But one of those things is we're not going to support that big expansion on unemployment to keep people unemployed just because they're going to get more money out of that process. So that's kind of the news coming out of Washington. I'll say quickly, I started off with, it's great to see everybody here because this is a big political year. We've got so many important things going on. We've got to reelect the president. We've got to keep the Senate. And we've got some great candidates. We've got to beat Barbara Bollier in November. And once we get through picking who's going to be our nominee from all the great candidates that are running on the Senate here, we've got to focus on Kansas state houses and state Senate seats. Because next year, redistricting starts. And with Laura Kelly in the governor's office, all she has to do is veto any redistricting plan, and it'll go to the judges. And we know how biased the judges are in Kansas in terms of things that they're doing. And so it's important for us to get good state reps, good state senators in so that we can actually go through that process and actually help House of Representative members too. So I don't have a primary. I do have a general election with somebody who tried to get the Democrat primary 2 years ago, and she's running again this time. Actually out there already making up stories and distorting the truth. And so that's the process we're going to go through. We're planning on helping all the state House members, all the state Senate members, and our whoever our Senate nominee is throughout the 4th District in terms of the race as we go through the November election. And so appreciate y'all being involved, that you're being engaged. Appreciate you coming out tonight and listening to the candidates and taking yard signs home and supporting your local candidate, and then we'll go through and win in November. So thank y'all.
Thank you, Ron. Well, let's see. Any Chris yet? Nobody's ever had plans that got messed up by somebody, have you? Okay, I think we'll go ahead and move to the 72nd District candidates. I know they're all here, so if you guys want to come on up and get your place, we'll ask you a few questions, get an intro. And it'll be Lance Gormley, Avery Anderson, Kathy Valentine, and Dwight McAdow. And everybody can grab a microphone, stand up, and if you guys get out of hand, we do have boxing gloves back here, so just go easy on each other. And it'll be the same thing. I'll have you'll have 2 minutes for an intro. So have 2 minutes for an intro, and we just have a few questions that the Central Committee came up with, and then you'll have 1 minute for a wrap-up. And we'll just start down at the end with Lance. If you want to give us a couple minutes about yourself, please.
Well, I'd like to say for the individuals that I have not been able to come to your door yet and meet, I apologize. I'm trying like heck to get to everybody, and there's a lot of people. I think the one thing that we all have to consider this election here, this primary, is who can beat Tim Hodge. I mean, I'm going to cut to the chase. I think if you're an informed person, you probably know quite a bit about all of us. If you've come to any debate, or you've watched any of them, or you've talked to any one of us, we've all done a very good job about being very clear about where we stand. We need to elect Republicans this cycle. I may be preaching to the choir here, but the reality is that day by day we find that it's getting worse. Every day I watch the news and I find out that there's just another stealing our liberties. Especially in Kansas, we need to be very careful to pick somebody that can beat Tim Hodge, because he's been very influential in making things difficult for people in the State House that want to get things accomplished. The standard issues for me are, I believe in the Convention of the States. I am pro-life. I am pro-Second Amendment. I do not believe in Medicaid expansion. I think we need to keep the federal government out of our business. It's the budget crisis. This is going to be one for the history books. If we don't get people in office that do not want to raise your taxes, then we're just going to continue on this endeavor that every time the governor mismanages her state or their state, that for some way or another we're supposed to, as the taxpayers, just bail them out. It's, I hate to be so frustrated and so passionate about it, but now's crunch time. We need to all come to an agreement here that even though we have 4 candidates up here, we all represent different people and different ideas in some way, we are all better than Tim Hodge, okay? And we cannot send him back to Topeka, and we need to pick the people or the person, and we need to work together to ensure that Tim Hodge does get defeated.
Hello, my name is Avery Anderson. I was born and raised here in Newton. I went to the University of Kansas, and while I was at KU, I was in student senate there, and that's when I really realized I had a passion for politics and I wanted to get involved in the community. After I graduated from the University of Kansas, I went to Washington, D.C. and interned for Senator Pat Roberts, and I actually just got home in March, and I've been knocking doors ever since, and I'm excited for the journey.
Hi, I'm Kathy Valentine. First of all, I want to thank you for coming out tonight and braving the heat. What a turnout. This is very encouraging to see your support for this seat coming up. I'm married to Wayne. We've been married for 34 years, lifelong Kansan, Newtonian since 2010. I currently sit on the Newton City Commission. I have been since 2015. It has been a wonderful experience, laced with a number of challenges. I've appreciated the things that I have learned about budgeting, about the various projects that require a lot of deep thought, attention before you make a decision. I'd like to take those skills with me to the 72nd District State House. I believe, too, that seat needs to be held by someone who will commit or pledge to restore integrity and trust and truth. I have had some, I will say not run-ins, but I've had some conversations that have just happened with Mr. Hodge, and I have sought to do my best at this point in time to let him know, without being too terribly nasty, that that seat needs to be replaced. I'm not sure what else to say. I like to be careful about how I approach those things. I like to be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. So I appreciate your consideration, please, for your vote for the 72nd District. I would look forward to going up there and representing you. Thank you. And I will say that public office is a public trust, and you need to know that you can trust that representative that you send up there.
Good evening. Like Kathy, I'm really surprised to see so many people here, and I'm thrilled that you guys all showed up to listen to us speak. One of the things that I've kind of noticed during the elections here is there seem to be more votes than people that show up to listen to candidates. So it's really nice to see such a good crowd of people that are trying to be informed to make those decisions. So my name is Dwight McAdow. I've lived here in Newton my whole life, except for during my military time. I am a 5th generation Newtonian, so my family's been here for well over 100 years. I am a WSU graduate. Like I said, U.S. Army veteran. I'm a small business owner, and I've had a lot of experience in the corporate world. I worked at a company called Makino for 15 years, and in that time, I was a repair technician. I moved into applications engineering, and then I became the regional engineering manager. And so we grew that business from a 3-person organization to over 24 within 15 years. And I ended up managing that through Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. So what I'm trying to say is I have some experience in the business world taking something that's small and turning it into something that's great. That's what I want to do here. I finally got to the point where I have the time to do it. I decided a year ago that I would leave the corporate world and become an entrepreneur. And so I'm here in Newton now. I'm a partner at Cedar Village. And I also have my own business with another partner, Air Capital Machine Tool. So I'm right downtown. Anytime anybody wants to come talk about anything, feel free to stop by and see me. I have an office in Cedar Village, and I'd be happy to talk to you about anything. Like the rest of the candidates here, I believe that we need to get Tim Hodge out of here, and we need to represent the community a little better, with a little more respect and a little more dignity. And I think I'm the guy to do that. Please let me have your vote on August 4th.
Thank you, candidates. You don't need to sit down yet, Dwight. I'll go ahead and start with you with the first question. What will you support for budget cuts with the expected $1 billion plus budget shortfall for the state?
I might need a fact checker after this, but what I'll say is Kansas has skyrocketed on what we're spending for a budget. Over the last 20 years, I think it was, our budget has increased something like, oh man, I'm going to forget the numbers now, $6.8 billion, I think it is, over inflation during that last 20 years. So what that tells me is that we are providing way, way, way too much for what we used to have. And so we have the opportunity to start cutting back, and that's what we're going to have to do. The schools themselves, I'm not anti-education, but the schools themselves have an operating budget right now with a surplus of over $940 million. And so we need to cut 1.3, something like that, and with 1.3 billion, and with the cash reserves, we could easily do that just with education. Not that I think we're going to go that route, but the money's there to do that. So I think what I'm really trying to get at is there are plenty of places that we can cut and we can absorb to try to make that happen. Thanks.
Well, I haven't been there yet, so my thought is more focused on making sure that we protect Kansans by not raising taxes. I don't know that the school, and we have some reps here, so correct me if I'm wrong. I know that in much of the reading I've done, and I'm kind of getting a little bit worried of some of the reading I've done because I've made some mistakes with some of the reading that I've done. But as I have read some things, I'm not quite sure that the school can be touched because of the legal issue. So that is something that has to be, we have to find that out. I would have to find that out. When I have looked at budgets here in the city, what we have done is look at all the departments. We have sought to make across-the-board cuts here in the city, but it works different in the state. So my desire would be to be able to be on either an appropriations subcommittee to work on that budget, and then have a part then or in the appropriations committee itself. If you're not on one of those committees, my understanding is you don't really have an influence or an impact on the budget.
Yeah, I would say with Governor Kelly's over $700 million cuts this year, they were actually just delays. It wasn't actually cuts. So I think that whoever we send up there needs to really look at the budget closely, and the number one thing needs to be we cannot raise taxes. That's the most important thing.
Sorry, I thought I was supposed to. Okay. Yes, in fact, we've been having a battle between the legislature and the Supreme Court, so to speak. I think at least one time before. And what's happened is the way that it's written into our Constitution, the Supreme Court has interpreted that to where they have the power to determine, I'm just going to, they get to determine how much money per kid, per head that we have in the state and what we fund for that. So With that being said, I'm a firm believer that we need to cut that money out. Yes, we would go back into a lawsuit at that point in time, and then we would let that go to the federal government, and the federal government would make the determination about whether or not our Supreme Court can just indefinitely raise and dictate to our legislature what our budget is for education. I believe that other than that, if I can get on board with that, as far as being on the team with that one, I think that we would be very meticulous and where we cut out, and I think we just overall need to start asking more from the welfare that we give people.
All right, thank you. So the next question, we'll start with Kathy, is how will you push back against the overreach by Governor Kelly?
Well, I guess I would have to say that much like the legislators did in this last session, I appreciated what they did as far as her ability to send her executive orders or her decisions down to the counties. I was a little dismayed when I saw that she set herself up rather well by setting executive orders, but knowing that those weren't able to be enforced. So that came back down to the counties, and then it has come to the city. I think you have to be really, really committed to keep her power reined in, and working with other legislators to see to it that that's done.
Yeah, I think that it's very important that the Republican legislators keep the governor in check and do not allow her to continue to make unconstitutional executive orders.
Well, the power is in the House and the Senate, not with the governor. Okay. The reality is the best way to stop her from doing what she's been doing, or I should say the governor doing what the governor's doing, is that we elect Republicans. We put pressure on people that are currently elected who want to be rhino Republicans. We tell Democrats, we don't care whether you're a Democrat, you're going to represent us. We make those phone calls, we make those emails, and we tell them what we want. And they are the ones that vote. And you know, the way government is designed is specifically so that way we can't have an executive branch dictating government or presidential fiats to us. So it's our responsibility, and my belief is, you've known that I ran in the city commission election before, and the reality is at your municipal level and at your house level, at the state, that's where all the power lies. And it's our responsibility as representatives to say no, and then to also say no to the federal government when they want to hand down something on us.
Yeah, it's all right. I think it's pretty well been covered. They made a lot of good points. We need to make sure that we vote in Republicans that are going to do the job that we need them to do to keep the governor from getting that overreaching that she has been. But along with that too, we have a power at the state level to do the same thing at the federal level. And so if you guys get a chance, you should stop by and see these gentlemen back over here for the Convention of States stuff. There's a lot of good information there that also helps point at the federal level. But yeah, really the big thing is what these guys have talked about, voting people in like Stephen Owens back there to make sure that the House gets to keep control of the governor.
All right, so next question, and we'll start with Avery with this one. Would you require work or school requirements while receiving welfare benefits? Will you require work or school requirements if you're going to receive welfare benefits? Avery?
I may have to come back to that one.
Yes, absolutely. Having been, you know what? Just Google my name and you'll see that I had a rough patch. Okay? Yes, I had to be on food stamps at one point in time in my life. And the reality is that I was not a person that wanted to remain there. Okay? I picked myself up and moved forward. Can't say the same for everybody else. Okay? What we need to do with our welfare system in Kansas is require something if you're in a situation where you're needing that help. Why wouldn't you require somebody to go to school? Maybe the reason why they're unemployed is because they're somehow not able to have a trade or do something in that nature that would allow them to be and have more tools in their chest to be able to become a productive member in society, let's call it. Because I personally don't think that there's anybody that honestly wants to be on welfare. Okay? Drug testing is good for me too. I don't know why there's a debate on it. I think that if you come to the state and you ask for something that we are, somewhat obligated to make sure that those people are helped in their time of need, but at the same time, we need to ask something from them for that.
I couldn't agree more. That's our money. If we're going to put the money in there and they're going to take the money out, I think we all expect that they should do something for it. If they're willing and able, or if they're capable, they should be out there doing that. After 9/11, I had to take unemployment, so I had a situation where I was on the welfare system, so to speak. During that time, I went to school. I didn't get my bachelor's degree until I was 32 years old, and that's what I did. When it was down and out, then it was time to do something to make a change in life, time to do something to make yourself better, time to make yourself more employable, and that's what I did. And I think every Kansan here would agree that we are all a very giving people, and it's okay to take when you need to take, but please give us something in return. The old saying, I guess, goes, it's great to give a hand out, but we'd much rather give a hand up.
Short and sweet, yes. Able-bodied workers, work training and work, yes.
Sorry. Yeah, I completely agree. I guess I need to hear an answer first. But I completely agree. If you are getting help, you should be putting something in as well.
Okay, and final question, and this comes with a little preface. I'm not going to vote for anybody sitting up here. In good conscience, I'm not able to vote for anybody here because I live in the 74th district. Stephen Owens is my man. So with prefacing that question, why should I vote for you, and how will you beat Tim Hodge? And we'll start with Lance.
Well, I know I can beat Tim Hodge is because I go and I knock on Democrat doors and independent doors and I make an argument for Republican principles. In my life, I can identify with lots of people who have given up hope and look to the Democrat Party to be their savior, okay? And the reality is that's not where we want to go. We're a country that believes in liberty, and we're a country that breathes in freedom and the ability to do what you can do to pick yourself up and move forward, as we say. As far as it goes with beating Tim Hodge, I think we all know that Tim Hodge is Goliath. I mean, in our community, somehow he's been able to, continue to remain elected. So as far as it's concerned with me, I believe that I'm going to go knock on the same doors. I know I already have. I mean, I have Democrats putting their sign in my yard because I'm able to go to them and articulate that individual has been lying to them. And I'm here to honestly beat him and represent my district accordingly, and we all deserve that.
So I think that was a two-part question that's hard to answer in 1 minute, but I'll give it a shot. I think I'm a better candidate because I have experience in the corporate world. I have experience running my own business. I have education to help support that, and I'm a U.S. military veteran. So I've got a lot of things going for me as far as those things go. As far as beating Tim Hodge, every Thursday afternoon at 4:30, there's a meeting in my office that I have with a small team of people that we start strategizing about how to do just this. I have a 10-point plan put together right now to beat Tim Hodge. And frankly, the first thing on that plan is to unite the Republican Party. Now, I know that sounds awful grandiose, and I don't know that I'm up here to say that we're all going to hug each other and and move forward. But I think it's important that we all get together and we all vote. There are 6,500 registered Republicans in this district. That's more votes than Tim Hodge has gotten in the last 2 elections. So we can do it.
Why should you vote for me? My experience here in the city, I believe, can be very, very instrumental in helping me to do a very good job for the residents, the citizens of the 72nd District. Working with budget, there's a number of issues, but I really like to stress that I am someone that likes to take an issue and read it, I research it, I seek counsel, I study it, and then I make a common sense informed decision. As far as Hodge, the biggest issue that there is when it all comes down to it are serious character issues. And people need to understand what those character issues are. And I intend, in my own way, some of you don't realize, and I know the other candidates don't realize, I have somewhat of a working relationship with Tim. We both belong to Kiwanis. So I am looking to the relationship that I have with him to use what I believe is right and best in stressing the character issues that are so deficit. Thank you.
I believe our current representative has co-sponsored 23 pieces of legislation this last session, and 0 passed. So he has done nothing on paper for our district this year. So we need to send somebody who will get to work for us. I also think from everyone that I've spoken with around the district, he's very poor with communication. And so that's my main thing. I want to bring communication from Topeka back home. And so that's why my personal cell phone number is on my website and my Facebook. I want to stay in touch with the community as much as possible.
All right, thank you. And now we'll have 1 minute to wrap up, and I believe Dwight will start that.
So again, yeah, it's going to take all of us to beat Tim Hodge. I briefly talked about the 6,500 registered Republicans here, and really what we need is we need you guys to band together. We need you to talk to your friends. We need you to share the information that you heard here today, and that way you all can make an educated vote on who is going to be that person to take on Tim Hodge. I think we all have different philosophies of what we do and what we bring. But at the end of the day, I think that the skills that I have and the attitude that I bring and the passion that'll come along with this will be easy for me to beat Tim. I just do. I think with you guys banding together, getting behind us, and moving us forward, we can win on August 4th. Please vote for Dwight McAdow.
Well, I'll stress it again. We need to go and be a representative of integrity, of trust, and communication. I agree with that, and that again is on my record as well. I think that we need to show the people in this district who've been so dismayed by the representation that we have had that it is possible to have someone go on your behalf and represent you in the way that you want to be represented. So I would agree there are different approaches that we all have, but I also agree too that we need to be together as Republicans to make sure that that seat is filled with a Republican, and I would ask for your consideration and your vote. Please vote for Kathy Valentine.
I think it's going to take someone with fresh ideas and new energy to beat Tim, and I think I have that. And I just think the main thing is once I got in, to bring communication back to the district. I think that's the most important thing.
Well, I think at the beginning I might have accidentally forgot to introduce myself. I'm Lance Gormley, so we'll do that on the back end. Number one priority is beat Tim Hodge. I don't know anybody that's going to work harder than me. I believe I'm the guy for the job. That's why I filed. There is nobody here that I would not stand and support. If you don't vote for me and you think that somebody else is a better candidate, that's okay with me, and I will stand beside you and them after August 4th and make sure that we get whatever needs to get done, because I'm not going to be selfish with this, okay? I got in this because I wanted to help my community, because I love my town, I love my county, I love my state, and I feel like we're under siege, all right? And I will do anything, fight tooth and nail, to win, just to ensure that we are protected. And not only that, but we're appropriately represented. Tim Hodge has beat himself, okay? That's the reality, but you also have to have somebody that can articulate that's going to work harder and work smarter than he can. In the end, it's all of us together united that are going to beat Tim Hodge, and I'm asking that you please let me lead you in that direction so we can do this together.
All right, let's get a round of applause for all the 72nd candidates. I believe they all have literature out, so after we listen to the rest of the Senate candidates, we will have lots of time for everybody to talk, and we'll be here as long as you want to be. So, Bob, Dave, and Chris, if you guys can come up, we'll get to know you guys. And please, I think we have a pile of ice cream left, so have seconds and thirds. Chip's ate already like 3 gallons. I see him there, but you got to beat him out, otherwise he's going to get it all.
I want to talk about beating Tim Hodge. I get to go to Topeka quite a few times a month, see Steve during the session. But you got to call on everybody that represents Harvey County. When you go into Tim Hodge's office, he has a map by precinct of the district of everybody that works for him. He has nicknames for the precinct. He has a well-oiled machine. How many of you here are precinct elected officials? You're going to have to help. You've got to put yard signs out and get yard signs in your neighborhood. He's already handing out voter stuff, as Rick will tell you, for the 2021 election cycle. So we've got to get behind one of these 4 candidates in August and make a change, because it'll be a good change for Harvey County. Thank you.
Thank you, Chip. Good to see you fired up. Okay, so I'm going to change the format just a little bit. Give everybody 3 minutes for an intro instead of 2, because we want to hear about you and learn about who you guys are. We all know Chris, but we want to learn about Bob and Dave as well. And last second, Mr. Marshall dropped out, so we won't be hearing from him tonight. We'll have a few questions for you. You will get a 1-minute answer, and then everybody gets the same question. So there's microphones there behind you, and we'll just start down there with Dave.
Is it on? Yeah. Good evening, everyone. My name's Dave Lindstrom, and it's a pleasure to be here. It's a great honor to be here running as United States Senate. Many times when I think about what I'm doing, I pinch myself and say, boy, am I very fortunate. To those whom much is given, much is expected. I've had a great life. I've been honored to grow up in a great family. I got a great education at Boston University. I was able to play 9 years in the NFL, competing against the highest of competition. Got to own my own business for 25 years. Owned and operated a chain of fast food restaurants, had 125 employees at our top, hired thousands of Kansans over the years, know what it's like to sign the front of a paycheck. Been able to serve my community in many different venues. I'm currently chairman of the Kansas Turnpike Authority, chairman of Kansas Leadership Center, if you're familiar with that. Was formerly chairman of the Kansas Special Olympics for the state. Chairman for Leadership Kansas, which is a program from the state chamber. To those whom much is given, much is expected. I expect a lot from myself. I am blessed because not when, back in 1978, when I came to play for the Chiefs, because I had an opportunity to fulfill my lifelong dream, but because it brought me here. You all are blessed too, because we all live in Kansas. All the places you can live right now, with all that's going on right now, you all live in Kansas. We are blessed. Now enough of the introductions. Why I'm running for Senate. It was mentioned earlier that this country, or the state, is under siege. It's not. Our country is under attack. Our country is under attack. We're under attack when we have elected officials in Washington, D.C. talking about socialism as an economic way forward in this country. We're under attack, folks. Open borders, talking about open borders at the expense of life, liberty, and the health of our citizens. We're under attack. By the way, when I said I ran my own business for 25 years, I did that not by spending more than I take in. Our country is under attack when we have trillion-dollar deficits. Folks, that's obscene. I don't know about you, but I have had enough. I've had enough of this talk of defunding the police. If I am elected your U.S. Senator, I will introduce legislation that calls for 10 years if you're wielding a gun to intimidate people at a protest, if you're looting, if you're burning down buildings. I've had enough, folks. I hope you have too. My time is up.
Well, it's great to be back here at the Ice Cream Social. My youngest daughter, Charlie, is back there somewhere. She made me wear pink so that we would color coordinate. But, oh, there she is. Charlie, you want to wave? Oh, Josie, sorry. Charlie wanted to come too. Josie is here tonight. I got 5 daughters. It's hard to keep them all straight. Josie, you want to tell them how old you are? 5. Okay. Anyway, hey, you guys know my record as Secretary of State. I promised that I would make Kansas the #1 state in the country when it comes to stopping voter fraud. And we did. We were the first state to combine photo ID, proof of citizenship, and equivalent security for mail-in ballots. And do we ever need that right now? And you know my record on immigration. For the past 2 decades I've been working on it. I've been advising President Trump on it for the past 4 years. I brought that, on behalf of 10 ICE agents, I brought that lawsuit against the Obama administration. What you might not know is that for the past year after I left office as Secretary of State, I've been the general counsel for We Build the Wall, which is a private organization which last summer completed the first section of privately built border wall in U.S. history. How cool is that? So you know that when I say I'm going to do something, I do it, and I don't care what the press says, because we have to stand firm for our conservative views. So if I'm privileged and blessed to be your U.S. Senator, I'm making more promises. Number 1, I will carry the ball for President Trump on immigration. Right now, he's got nobody doing that. They're only playing defense in the Senate. We need to be playing offense. We have to make sure that we have defunding of sanctuary cities, that we close these loopholes that these caravans have been using where they falsely claim asylum. And I can tell you that, you know, many senators, they get there, they aren't sure about the issues, and the staff just tells them what to do. I'll be telling the staff what to do, because I've litigated the immigration laws against the ACLU in case after case, and the president needs someone to carry the ball for him. So that's promise number 1. Thanks. Promise number 2, judges. You might not know, before I was your Secretary of State, I was a professor of constitutional law for 15 years. And I can recognize an activist judge from a mile away. We need to have people on the Senate Judiciary Committee, and Kansas hasn't had anyone there for over 10 years, who can stop activist judges from getting on the bench, because once they're there for life. And if you thought the Kavanaugh hearings were tough against Justice Kavanaugh, That's child's play compared to what the next hearing is going to look like. It's going to be Armageddon, and I want to be there defending President Trump's nominee. Thank you. Third promise, spending. As Dave mentioned, it is obscene how much money, $23 trillion of debt, which isn't going to be paid by us, it's going to be paid by our grandchildren, and we're going to be borrowing from China so they can pay it. How ridiculous is that? And the Democrats want another $3 trillion on top of what we've already paid. We have got to make sure that we get this debt under control. This out-of-control spending is not the new normal, and I promise you I will get the job done once again. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you all for having me here. I am a newcomer here, and a lot of you don't know me, but I'm going to introduce myself a little further. My wife's dad is actually from Newton, Kansas, so I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, my dad was a plumber, and he gave me the tools of the trade, so I became a plumber. And Teresa and I, in 1983, we started our own plumbing company together. And I knew in order for that to work, I had to follow the principles that my dad taught me, which is treat people with respect. He said, Bob, you got to work hard. This isn't going to be easy. And it wasn't. He said, deliver on your promises and over-deliver to your customers. And he also said, make sure you charge more than it costs. Business 101, I think. So I did, and like Dave, I didn't spend more than I took in. And I think the federal government can take a lesson from that. So today that company employs over 160 people in our area with high-paying jobs. And I've not only been blessed with running this company, but Teresa and I have been blessed with raising 12 wonderful kids. Thank you. So I live pro-life. That is absolutely the truth. I am Catholic. I have 6 boys, 6 girls, no twins. A lot of people ask that. And Teresa and I will be married 40 years this September. And yes, Teresa is a saint. But I worry about my kids and their future and what kind of a future we're going to leave them. I think we need to leave them an opportunity of the American dream like I got, right? They need communities that are built on family and faith and a country that rewards self-responsibility and hard work and ingenuity. And they need a future as big and bright as their ability to dream. Now, that's why I'm running for Senate, because President Trump needs a true conservative that can win in the fall, because he has to deal with a lot of crap up in Washington, right? Luckily, I'm a plumber, and that's my specialty. Thanks.
All right, thank you. So we will get to the first question. And again, everybody gets 1 minute to answer. These are questions that the Central Committee here in Harvey County came up with. First question is, which federal programs would you shift to the states or eliminate? And that'll be for you, Chris.
There are a whole bunch of federal programs that we could eliminate. And I'm not even sure, whenever the federal government shifts something to the states, they usually impose a mandate. And so I'm not opposed of mandating that the states take over where the federal government left off. But look, National Endowment for the Arts. Why in the world are we spending money for NPR and PBS and National Endowment for the Arts? Let's stop that right now. And the guy who canceled and isn't with us here today, he voted against a bill that would have cut funding to the National Endowment for the Arts. I mean, that kind of shows you where we stand. You've got to say, let's stop shoveling out this money and making our grandkids pay for it. Look at the Secretary of State's office. I cut my budget from $7.0 million down to $4.6 million. Each year, cutting it a little bit. You know how we did it? We did it because the generation, the baby boomer generation, is retiring 11,000 people a day, and so there were vacancies just created. I think we can do the same thing at the federal government. When somebody retires, you just don't replace them. We could shrink the federal government just as much, and that's what I intend to do.
Which federal programs would you shift to the states or eliminate?
Great. yes, I'm for less spending all around. And one department that I don't know why we need at a federal level is the Department of Education. I think that needs to be absolutely at the federal level, and that would save taxpayers lots of money. And like Chris said, you know, National Endowment of the Arts, I would get rid of that. I would never give to that. And I guess that's it.
Anything that deals with national security and interstate commerce should be handled by the federal government. Anything else should be handled by the states.
All right, thank you. This one's a little trickier. So China has made claims to owning the South China Sea and is setting up bases on sandbars. Should we confront them and push them out of international waters? And Bob?
Yes, I think we need to deal with China harshly. President Trump has done a great job in trying to make trade deals with China because he knows that China rigs the system with our farmers, and so we need to continue to put tariffs on China so we can get good trade deals with China because they rig the system and they steal our technology, and we need to stop them from expanding militarily too.
Dale Carnegie, the famous author, said that we should be more concerned with our character than our reputation because our character is who we are, our reputation is who people think we are. As it relates to China, they think we're a pushover. We need to show the character of our commitments and make sure that they understand we're not going to tolerate them trying to expand into international waters.
Isn't it funny how the Democrats are so focused on Russia, 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 Russia? That's the problem. Look, Russia is not a threat to the United States. There's only one country on this planet that is an existential threat to the United States, and that is China right now. They teach their kids that they are the global hegemon and that there is one barrier between them and the dominance that they rightfully should have. The United States. That is in their schools. They believe that. We have, for once in my lifetime, a president who is standing up to China. And that's President Trump. And I am so glad that he's standing up to the Chinese, bringing them to the table, and doing what's necessary to confront them. So yes, we should confront them in the South China Sea. Yes, we should confront them on trade. Yes, we should confront them on technology transfer. And one of the things about COVID that opened my eyes, and maybe yours too, that we have 97% of our antibiotics from China. We need to bring those back now. And 95% of ibuprofen. Man, now that I'm over the age of 50, I get ibuprofen every morning. It's my vitamin I. We need to bring that back now. We cannot be dependent on China for anything that is vital to our country.
Okay, so the next question that kind of ties into that is, do you support renegotiating trade agreements with countries around the world? And I believe, Dave, you start this.
Absolutely. The president has done a great job at looking at things that most other politicians and elected officials and presidents, for that matter, have overlooked because they just want to be up there in the position. I think that absolutely we need to take a look at every negotiated treaty that we have in this country, every country that we're dealing with, and look at it and make sure that it's beneficial to America.
So President Trump has done a great job of trying to get us out from under the boot heel of these globalist multinational bodies and allowing us to deal one-on-one with each individual country, and that is the way to go. We don't need multinational trade agreements, unless, of course, it's the 3 countries of North America. That's a little different. But the World Trade Organization is a perfect example. President Trump has mentioned, first time any president has mentioned this since George H.W. Bush got us into it, let's get out of the World Trade Organization. What have they done for us? We can have bilateral agreements. And I'll tell you one thing they haven't done for us. We had a great policy in place for 2 years, mandatory country of origin labeling for beef. Right now, you're getting a lot of the beef in the grocery stores from Brazil. It's not American beef, and you don't know it, none of us know it, because it doesn't say where it's from. We used to know where it was from, but the World Trade Organization ruled that America can't have country of origin labeling. Well, guess what? America doesn't need the World Trade Organization. We need to stand for American cattlemen, American beef, and if some internationalist body says you can't do that, then I say we're out of there.
Absolutely agree that we need to have better trade, and we have President Trump that has stood up and got rid of NAFTA and got the North American trade agreement going, and so he'll do that with other trade agreements that we do have with other foreign powers, and he knows he's a master negotiator, and he will get us great trade deals with other countries, and we're going to need to open that up because we're going to need an outlet because we're dealing with China right now, and if they start to not play fair with us, then we're going to need to have more trade with other countries all over the world.
Okay, the next one. Would you support a bill that would require a percentage of the federal budget be used to pay off the national debt? And I'm assuming that also means and not accrue any new national debt at the same time. Chris, yep.
Yeah, I would support something like that. I think the best way you would do it would be through a balanced budget amendment. That would basically say you can't be adding to the debt in any given year. And so in that year, any excess revenues would have to come in and be used to pay down the debt. That would be, I think, the easiest way and it would make the most sense. So I'm 100% in favor of a balanced budget amendment. It has been a heavy lift getting the members of Congress to adopt a balanced budget amendment. That's why I favor Convention of States, which is a way to put a lot of these conservative amendments in front of the people at once. We have to, the spending has gone out of control. And I mean, it's not only unsustainable, as we've already described, it's immoral. I mean, we're spending somebody else's money and we're borrowing from the Chinese to do it. Imagine if you took a credit card and you and your spouse racked up $75,000 of debt, and this is approximately what it is per person, and then you handed that credit card to your child and said, happy birthday, you have to pay this off. That's what we're doing right now. And I think if most people thought of it that way, they would say, we have got to stop spending so much.
I would also be for a balanced budget amendment for sure. Americans and not Americans, but the federal government, they have a habit of spending. They just love to print money. They think it's just there, then they print it and they can spend it. Well, that's not the way the things work. We need better. I just saw Roger in it. No, you look like Roger Marshall. Oh my gosh. Okay, sorry. All right. Anyway. Yeah, too often we've spent way too much in this country, and we can't even have a CARES Act that we put extra spending in. We have $25 million for the Kennedy Center and $75 million for PBS and Big Bird. And why are we doing this? I mean, I wish that we would have thought about this overspending before this pandemic, before we're like $25 trillion into debt. Let's get back to balanced budget.
I am so pleased that this question was asked. I mentioned earlier that the reason I'm running for the United States Senate is because I think the country's under attack. We're spending too much money. I have a plan. It's called term limits. It's called getting people in elected office to go in and serve for the sake of serving, not for the sake of getting elected, re-elected, or climbing the next ladder. Okay? I'm in favor of ending congressional perks and pensions. Okay? And do we have any Chiefs fans here? Okay. The Chiefs just signed the greatest quarterback in the league right now, okay? Patrick Mahomes. He got a lot of money. He was paid for his performance. I think our legislators ought to be paid for their performance as well. So what I would like to introduce as your next senator is a pay for performance bill, which will penalize for every $1 billion in deficit. Each elected official that's in Washington, D.C. takes a $100 a year cut. With a $1 trillion deficit, each elected official would take a $100,000 a year cut. You don't think they'd refocus on what the deficit is? I think they would.
Thank you. All right, next question, and we'll start with Bob. Should we withdraw our troops from Afghanistan immediately?
Absolutely. We've been over there for 20 years. Somebody told me a joke the other day. They said, hey, Afghanistan's almost legal to drink. Right? Because we've been there for 20 years, whatever. Yes. The people over in Afghanistan are shooting at us right now. It's time to get out and pull out. We can protect, we've already taught their soldiers how to protect their own nation. And if there ever is a hot spot over there, we can eliminate it with drones and SEAL teams and such as that. We can definitely have a lighter imprint in a lot of places overseas, which I think would save a lot of money.
I would do everything in my power to support a well-funded, well-trained, and well-educated military and everything that takes. But they should be well-trained to go in, do the job as quickly as possible, and then get the hell out. So yes.
I agree we should get out of Afghanistan. I don't know if I would agree with the word immediately, just because we want to do it in a way that allows us to scale our withdrawal. But President Trump has said that he wants to get us out of these endless wars, and he's absolutely right. We have to do it in a way that allows the troops to come out so that their safety is premium, and also so that we don't set up terrorist training grounds, because that's what Afghanistan was. Remember when we first got into it? So we've got to do it in a smart way, but we have to get out. And isn't it interesting that the left always points to President Trump and says, "Oh, he's a hothead. He's a tyrant. He's going to use the military for this or that." President Trump has committed fewer troops than any president in the last 40 years. I mean, he has been very reluctant to do this, and it's the left that's constantly saying, "Oh, we need to go in there and we need to do something in Syria. We need to go in." We should appreciate that about President Trump. He's done what we all, I think, believe, and that is, if you're going to go in hard, kick some butt, come home, and get the job done. Don't do these long-scale police actions that go on and on and on for a generation.
Okay, just a couple of questions left, and we'll start with Dave with this one. Recent polls show that 70% of Democrat voters favor socialism in America. What will you do to combat the advance of this harmful ideology?
Once again, it's one of the pillars of why I'm running for the United States Senate. I think that socialism, in one word, is called envy. It's people who want something that they don't want to work for. They just want something given to them. I think capitalism, in one word, is gratitude. Gratitude for the freedom and opportunity to make something of yourself. We cannot allow this socialistic, communistic rhetoric go on any longer. I mentioned earlier, the country is under attack. We are. This is serious business, folks. Serious business. And we all need to get out and vote on August 4th. Thank you.
Yeah, the socialist threat is alive and well. You remember Ronald Reagan said back in, I wasn't alive at the time, but I heard the speech, in 1960 or 64. He said that the first step socialism takes in America is nationalized medicine, right? And of course Obamacare was step one of two steps to bring us to nationalized medicine. And now the radical left is using the coronavirus, the COVID crisis, to push socialism. Bernie said we have to nationalize healthcare because of this, but there's something else going on too. You remember when Romney was running for president and they said, well, we're at 47%, we can't get to 50? That's 47% of the people living off of government benefits. If we get to 50% and then we stay over 50%, where more people are living on government handouts than are actually in a capitalist system and actually earning money for themselves and contributing, then we'll be past the point of no return. Well, we're over 50% right now, temporarily, because of COVID. And the Democrats are passing bills to lengthen unemployment benefits, increase unemployment benefits. They don't want us to come down below 50%. We have to get Americans off of welfare back to the kind of productive system we've always had.
Is that a scary thought or what? Socialism. When did we stop teaching in our schools that socialism was a failed system? I don't know where it came from. And over 70% of the Democrats want socialism. I don't get it. You know, so the Democrats want to give us socialism. They want to give us free health care. They want to give us free education. They want to give us free. And you know what they want? They want control. Because if they're in control, and then that puts us under their thumb, and that's what they want. They want to take our freedoms away by pushing this socialism down our throat. Love your shirts. And that's all I got to say about that.
All right, last question, and then we'll get to wrap up. So even when we had record low unemployment, too many people were on welfare and disability programs and not working. What would you do to remedy this, Chris?
Well, the first thing I would do is what the president has done, and that is when you have record unemployment, you stop bringing in more foreign workers to displace Americans from jobs. And by the way, President Trump, when he did this, first president in our lifetime to temporarily halt legal immigration. We've all been, well, the Democrats haven't, but the Republicans have been trying to stop illegal immigration. President Trump did that, and here's another difference between me and I think the others here and the guy who's not here. He wrote a letter with 37 other rhinos, Lou Dobbs raked him over the coals for it, asking for more H-2B workers, saying please bring in more foreign workers, even though 40 million Americans are unemployed. I wrote a column in Breitbart saying no, President Trump is right. Stop the inflow of foreign workers when so many Americans are unemployed. Americans have to be the first to get those jobs. Fortunately, President Trump agreed with our point of view, but you need to know the differences between the candidates, and I wish he were here to defend himself. I don't think he can defend himself, and I think that's why he's not here. But the first thing we have to do is stop bringing in foreign workers when so many Americans are unemployed.
The question.
I got to dig it out.
Okay, sorry.
Even when we had record low unemployment, too many people were on welfare and disability programs and not working. What will you do to remedy this?
Well, I would make sure that every able-bodied American that was on unemployment was out there looking for work, or they're being trained for work. I know that in my company, we were always looking for workers, for technicians. There's such a shortage of technicians in this world, and too many people are not college bound, they're career bound. So let's get them to work in the trades. The trades is a wonderful place to start, and you can actually achieve the American dream by being a plumber or an electrician or an HVAC guy. But yeah, that's all I got.
Okay, first of all, we got to make sure we're bringing all our manufacturing jobs back to this country. That's worth applause. We need to do that. Secondly, I want you to know that for the last 7 years, I've been a trustee of a community college, and community colleges in the state of Kansas are a phenomenal opportunity. We just invested $1.5 million in Johnson County Community College on our career and technical education programs. And as was mentioned earlier, you can make an investment of $2,500 and in 18 months be certified to be an HVAC person and go out and make a job, get a job paying you $50,000 a year. As opposed to that, you could go to a 4-year institution, spend $50,000 a year, and hope that you get a $50,000 job at the end of 4 or 5 years.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. And I think we'll give you a couple of minutes to wrap up, and I believe we'll start with Bob.
Actually, most of my HVAC techs make more than $50,000 a year. But yeah, you know, I am a true outsider, and I've created hundreds of jobs that families rely on for their income. And so that's why I think it separates me from the rest of the field, is because I started a business from scratch. And I know what it's like to provide health insurance for all my employees and how to make payroll in a tough economic time. So I don't need this job. I've got a really, really good life, and I've got a great family. But if we don't stand up for this country, if we keep sending professional politicians down to Washington, up to Washington, wherever it is, that just want to climb the ladder, then I think this country's in trouble. You know, we have enough politicians that are worried about Wall Street. I think we need a senator that's worried about Main Street, that's worried about reviving our family farms and actually getting our working people to be able to achieve the American dream. So, you know, if you want to keep sending professional politicians to Washington, then I'm not your guy. But if you want to help President Trump drain the swamp, hire a plumber.
Okay, a couple things. I want this job. I want this job. I'm serious about this job. If you're looking for a fighter, if you're looking for someone who competed at the highest level against 300-pound men who were trying to tear my head off every day, and someone who survived that kind of environment, I'm your guy. If you've had enough of career politicians, if you've had enough of people who are serving for the sake of self-serving and not for serving you, then I offer you an option. I have a proven record. I told you about my commitments to volunteer to the Turnpike Authority, to the Kansas Leadership Center, the Kansas Special Olympics, to my community. I will be there for your last line of defense. I operated a Burger King for 25 years, and if someone came up to my front counter and said, "I'm sorry, you shorted my order," I better take care of it. And I did for 25 years, because I know who I work for. And as your U.S. Senator, I will know who I work for. And I also want to finish with a little levity. And I want you to know that sometimes big guys can learn lessons from people who you wouldn't expect to teach them that lesson. I was out campaigning, and as a former professional athlete, as someone who owned his own business, and now someone who's running for the United States Senate, to be one of 100 folks in the world that do this. I was at a retirement home, and I'm shaking hands and I'm talking to everyone, and I see a woman in the corner, and she's in a wheelchair. And I say, I'm going to go over and say hello to her. Now, I thought I had a little bit of an ego, so I walk over to her and I kneel down in front of that wheelchair. I look her in the eye, and I said, "Do you know who I am?" And she looked at me and said, "No, but if you check at the front desk, I'm sure they'll tell you." Thank you very much.
Three quick points to finish on. First, one issue that I never thought we would ever be talking about in a U.S. Senate race, but I've been bringing it up because we need to talk about it in a U.S. Senate race. It's an issue that just has crept up upon us, and it's crazy. Trans athletes competing in women's sports. It's something has got to be done. As the father of 5 daughters, if one of them has dreams of competing at a high level in athletics, in any sport, and then she gets to the championship, and the championship is snatched away by a dude competing in a women's sport or a biological male, something is wrong. It's unfair, and there's an easy solution to it. It's simple. And I'll propose a bill in January to do this. Any college that allows biological males to be on a team with or compete against women in women's sports loses all Title IX money. Done. And the reason I'm talking about it, even though the politically correct snowflakes don't want me to talk about it, is because if we conservatives don't say anything, then by the way, there's already 3 sports that the records have already fallen to biological males. Next year it'll be 6 sports. The year after that it'll be 10 sports. We've got to stand up and do something, and there is a solution. So that's one thing I wanted to make sure you knew. Second thing, I think I'm the only candidate, certainly in our state, but in any state, running for the U.S. Senate who's been personally called out and criticized by Chuck Schumer, AOC, Sheila Jackson Lee, and Rachel Maddow. Well, I'm glad they've called me out, because that shows that whatever I've been doing for the past few years of my career has angered them, and that I pose a threat to their worldview and their way they want America to be. And I'm telling you that I will continue to anger them and pose a threat to their worldview, because you don't want someone who's going to go to the Senate and just going to be loved by everyone, because someone who's loved by everyone is not taking a stand. Third and final point I want to make, and that is, you might have seen some ads on TV saying that Chris Kobach accepted money from white nationalists. That ad is being run by an establishment rhino group in Washington, D.C., that wants to send someone who's a moderate to the Senate for Kansas. They want to send a yes man to Mitch McConnell. Well, I'll tell you this, I am not going to be a yes man. I'm going to be someone who holds McConnell's feet to the fire and stops him from making concessions and stops him from giving up the conservative movement. So they can run those ads all the time, and they're false, by the way. I accepted money from the Immigration Reform PAC, which has given money to more than 100 members of Congress, because they oppose open borders and they support ICE. So if that makes me a white nationalist, well, that's crazy, but call me whatever you want. I will continue to stand for closing our borders, except where we have ports of entry, of course, and enforcing our immigration laws. They can call me any name they want. I won't change my mind. Thank you.
Big round of applause for the Senate candidates, please. Thank you, gentlemen. I sure appreciate you coming out tonight. Everybody, they'll be around for a while. Talk to them. They have lots of signs out. Get to know them. Take campaign material. Take their signs. Thank you. And plenty of ice cream left. Plenty of water. Been a great evening. And we're going to move on to some of our local candidates that are running unopposed in the primary, and most of them are running unopposed in the general. Saw the sheriff back here. You want to come up and say a few things? Tell us the state of law enforcement in the county. And again, everybody, they've got tables out and around, so get the Senate candidates. I think they're sticking around. Go talk to them, but try to keep it down to a dull roar, because Chad will have us riveted for at least 25 minutes.
25 minutes? I don't think so. Nobody wants to be here for 25 minutes to listen to me talk. So, sorry. So, 25 minutes is not going to happen, by the way. So, really, all I want to tell you is thank you again. I told you every time I come up here, I'm going to thank you guys for electing me the first time. I'm unopposed, so it's my honor to serve you guys for another 4 years.
Thank you, Chad. All right, didn't see, is Emily here, our treasurer? Oh, come on up. Our esteemed treasurer, who I keep trying to work over to get a cool guy head of party discount, and she tells me no every time. Actually, this year, she charged me 10% extra on my taxes. So don't go in asking for a discount.
I don't really have much to say either. Thanks for appointing me. It was 2.5 years ago, and things were going pretty smoothly, and then there was COVID, so now we're trying to work out a new way of making things run smoothly. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Emily. Jason Lane. Jason? He is running for county attorney. Dave Yoder's retiring. I didn't see Dave either. So if you guys are here, come on up. Our county clerk, Rick. Come on up, Rick. I want to keep my distance from him, because this is one man we do not want to get sick. We've got a lot of election coming up, very important, so we want to make sure he keeps tabs on everything, keeps track of all those envelopes coming in.
If you don't know me, my name's Rick Pifo. I'm the county clerk. One of my jobs is to run the elections. Just in case you don't know, advanced voting in the courthouse starts next Tuesday. Runs for the whole 2 weeks up until noon on the day before the election. We're also open for early voting on Saturday, August the 1st from 9 to 2. And if anybody here, everybody's political here, we're looking for poll workers still. I've had a number of them pull out, so if you're interested, call the office, 284-6840, or check our website. I guess, otherwise, please vote for me in August and November.
Thank you, Rick. As a poll worker, do I get to kind of leaf through the ballots and pick keep the ones I want, or is that still kind of a taboo?
That's absolutely taboo. But if you want to make minimum wage for a 14-hour day, being a poll worker's the job for you.
Sounds too enticing. I'll check my schedule, Rick. Thank you. Let's see. I don't think I've seen Raquel. We have. Oh, there she is. See, you guys have all your masks on. You're hiding from me. Next thing you know, you're gonna be sticking me up. I left my wallet in the truck. It's hard times.
I'm Raquel Langley. I'm going to thank you all again for appointing me last July. I certainly have enjoyed my position as Register of Deeds. And I want to say something about it. It's been an interesting time. To come in, fill in shoes for someone that's done a fantabulous job before me, but to also go through all of this mess that we're going through. I am looking forward to your continued support for the next 4 years, and I would appreciate it. Y'all ever have any land questions or looking for anything like that, feel free to stop on by. However, right now, we're only doing it by appointment, so.
Thank you. And again, all of our local county elected officials, they actually work. It's not like a big county like Sedgwick County or Johnson County where it's just a political thing for a stepping stone. Everybody that gets these jobs works and earns their keep at the county. Stephen Owens, get some more words of wisdom from you.
Hey guys, is there anybody here that doesn't think elections have consequences? Have we not learned over the last 3 to 6 months what some of those consequences are? Let me share some of those consequences with you really quick. Our governor closed your business and my business, but made sure that babies could still be killed in the state of Kansas. How essential is that? She was going to arrest you if you chose to go to church against her order. How do you like that? She unilaterally closed schools, the first in the country, without the input of the state school board, without any input from the state legislature at all. She will be soon appointing her third Kansas Supreme Court appointee. Third. Folks, if you don't think elections have consequences, you are sorely mistaken. And I'm willing to bet there's a handful of people here that might have thought that she was the right decision 2 years ago. But I bet you there's a lot of people now rethinking how important their liberty and their freedoms are. The 72nd, which the majority of you guys are voting in, have the opportunity to change that. We are 4 votes short in the House from being able to override her veto. And unless we have somebody that is willing to stand up to challenge her unconstitutional mandates, then we will get more of the same. And it is that simple. We need to ensure that we turn the 72nd back to a Republican district, and that's where it has been, and that's where it needs to get back to. And we all have to get behind whoever gets that nomination. You pick the right one, but I will stand right here and pledge my support, my time, and every effort I have to ensure that that person is prepared to stand up on stage to challenge Tim Hodge and to beat him in November. It is only because of the people here that we have the ability to do that. Get active, get involved. Don't be afraid to stand up and use your voice. Don't be silenced because it's politically correct. Stand firm on who you are and stand firm on your freedoms no matter who challenges you. And let's convert this district. Thanks, guys.
All right, Chip, got a few more words of wisdom for us? Come on up. We love hearing from Chip. Got about a half hour before dark, Chip, so if you can squeeze it in, that would be super awesome. And it's Carolyn here? Has anybody seen Carolyn? Okay, I guess Carolyn's headed to Topeka, so Chip will give us enough wisdom.
Oh, let's talk about something different. The budget's going to get wrapped up and tied down tomorrow, probably. We're trying to come in flat as best we can. There may be a 10th drop or a 10th increase, but then again, we can set it, and in November, the state changes it anyway from what we do. So we're working on it, trying to hold down, because based on my experience on the commission in 9, 10, and 11, when the economy went in the tank, we're going to see that again in 21 and 22. So we've got to kind of plan ahead because of those issues. This year, the income or property tax came in within 1% of what is normal, but we suspect in the next couple of years that's not going to happen. The delinquency is going to go up, which affects then the mill levy, which affects you all in what we're doing until we recover. We're getting ready to receive our CARES money for the county. It's about $6.5 million. I don't know if we'll spend it all. I mean, that's a lot of money. But it is being handed down, and like they've said earlier, somebody's got to pay for this in the next few years too, through federal dollars. So we will be very diligent in what we can do. The county's portion of this will end December 30th, then we have to turn the unused money back to the state. But there are some expenses, PPEs that the extra fire departments and everybody's had to buy, that type of thing. It's about for a patient in a hospital or a nursing home that's COVID-19, just for the protective gear, it's costing them about $1,000 a day because they got to change it every time you go in and out of the room. But those type of things, we're looking at that, so that will be moving pretty fast. Rick's talked about the elections, which is the most important. If you have any other specific questions about the county, please come and talk to me in the next few minutes. I'll stick around. And thank you for your time and your support.
Thank you, Chip. I have a question about the that extra money. Instead of turning it back to the state or the feds, why don't we build a bridge over Main Street, over the tracks, so we don't have to listen to the whistle anymore? All the senators pledged money already.
Go out in front of your building and cough a lot.
I don't know where to go with that. So we have a State Board of Education member, and I apologize, sir, I don't know your name, but come on up and let's talk a little bit about your position.
A lot of it. I'm Ben Jones. I represent this area in the Kansas State Board of Education. I head to Topeka tomorrow morning to vote on what we're going to do in August. We are going to receive a 1,068-page back-to-school guidance, not regulation. It's important. It's a guidance for districts to use to formulate their own local plan. There are 5 public school districts in the state of Harvey, in the county of Harvey. Those local school boards will be formulating their back-to-school plan. So talk to your local board member about what you want to see school look like. I guarantee you, as your member, I will always advocate Plan A as kids are back in school in August. And I can tell you my 9 other colleagues agree with me on that function right there. We all agree on that. But we know that in some areas of the state, there will be a big viral uptick, and certain buildings will have to close, and we will treat COVID-19 like we treat whooping cough and all of those other health ailments that we have that do crop up from time to time, including the influenza virus. So it's important that we treat it like we do everything else. And we have a lot of work to go forward. I've been a pleasure serving you for these last, as I knock over microphones. I'm used to wireless, guys. So it is a pleasure to serve Harvey in northern Sedgwick County as well as 13 other counties across central Kansas on District 7. I live in Sterling. And if you ever have any questions about anything school policy related, feel free to email me, bjones@ksde.org. I promise you I read all my emails. I don't have a staffer do it because I don't have one. So I do read your emails, and it's been a pleasure working with Representative Owens. And one last thing, and I know the commissioner already hit on this point. I don't know where Chip, oh, he's over there. he already hit on this. I, too, have to work with a representative from the 72nd District of Harvey County. And please elect a Republican this cycle. Please.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for your hard work. I believe that's it. I don't think I've missed anybody that's either running for office or has been elected as a Republican. Again, lots of ice cream. If you don't take it, eat it tonight. Stephen Owens is going to take it home and finish it for us. So, again, lots of signs, a lot of candidates still around. Everybody go meet somebody, talk to somebody, and take a sign home, take information home. And thank you for coming out this evening. Enjoy the beautiful evening.